Hello and welcome to Tracy Momi Reads. I am back today with another book review. So, two things. First of all, it is dreary outside. So, hopefully, this video doesn't come out too dark. I'm gonna have to do some editing on the back end. But second, I actually was going to make this my last video of the year, and I was going to take off, for the rest of the year, for the holidays, and today I was going to do like my top 5 reads of 2022. Then I read another book and decided that I did want to discuss it. And turns out with the review that I'm going to do today and the video that I have planned for next week, which will be my last video before the holidays, I will be at exactly 100 videos on the channel ending 2022. So I felt like that was a good round, perfect number to, end the year with. So I guess it all worked out for the best. But anyway, without further ado, today I'm going to be reviewing Mill Point Road by JK Ellem. Mill Point Road, and hopefully I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. I got an email from this author saying that he had watched my channel. So hello, if you're watching this particular review of your book. And he wanted to, send me a copy of his book. And I was very flattered, that he watched and, that he wanted to send me a copy. But I was also a little apprehensive, I'm not going to lie. Because, as an author, I feel it's different if, when you promote your book and people go out and buy it, or if you do a giveaway because you're trying to drum up, interest or whatever, it's like whatever experience the person has with the book, you're kind of separate from that because they read the blurb, maybe they read an excerpt and they still felt compelled to buy it. So something about that attracted them to your work. And I always feel a little weird when people ask me to read their books, because I never ask anyone unless it's like a pre-reader, because if the person doesn't like it, then you run the risk of just being, burned up in flames. Like, oh, she had the nerve to reach out and ask me to, read her book and it wasn't even good. So I'm just always a little leery. And then I don't want to have to lie if somebody sends me a book or asks me to review something on the channel and I didn't like it. It's like, do you just not even mention that you got the book? I don't know. But wasn't the case in this particular book. I really enjoyed it. Off the bat, I will say one thing before I even get into the meat of the review. Y'all know that series are not particularly my thing, because the way that my attention span is set up in my TBR list, I need to be one and done. And now I'm going to be just, pulled into the world of the Mill Point Road people, because at the end of the book, I needed to know more. I want to know more. So now I'm going to have to go and read the other books. Way to go, Mr. Ellem, pulling me into your world, Thanks a lot. Anyway, so Mill Point Road. I will tell, on the front of the book, it says, 5 women, 5 dark secrets, 1 killer who knows them all. So it is a thriller. It is a series, as we've established, and it kind of follows I think it's 5 houses. Well, 5 women, so obviously it's like this gated, exclusive community where these people are, sheltered pretty much. But it just also speaks to the fact that even though they're sheltered, they're kind of in their own worlds, they're not exempt from having things happen as far as, secrets among them, crime, it can infiltrate even the tightest knit of communities, the richest of people. Nobody's exempt. And that is what we learn in this book. I thought it was interesting. It's been a while since I read a book where the book started with an epilogue as opposed to a prologue. typically most books start with a prologue, and it's like kind of setting the stage. Okay, this thing happened, and now we're going to tell you the story after this thing happened. And then at the end of the book, you get a kind of an epilogue, like, okay, this is what has happened now that the story's over. Well, we kind of got the ending at the beginning in this book, although it was very clever because no names were used, so you don't know who they're talking to or who they're talking about until you get to the end. Then it's kind of tied back to the beginning, like, oh, she was the person. Okay, he was the one, So I thought that was very clever. I knew at the onset that this was going to be something a little different. And when I tell y'all, this book, it's fast-paced. It keeps you guessing. Everybody's a suspect. Nobody's above suspicion. And everybody has their own like dirt and secrets, as I'm sure most neighborhoods, going on behind closed doors. And you would think with so many different characters and so many different storylines, pretty much, that it would get to be like too much, you know what I mean? But no, everything is woven together to where it makes sense as we get to the culmination of what has happened. You see how everything, is done. And I feel like that's the mark of a good writer, when they can take these tiny details to build this story, but all the while, it's leading you to this place. It's like you think everything's just so random, but the random, it just all starts to come down and lead to the conclusion, which is explosive, of this book. And like I said several times, I thought, I know who did it. I know who's responsible for it. No, I was wrong. I still was wrong at the very end. There were a couple of things I kind of figured out, or I felt like I knew where it was going, but like the big overarching thing, no, not a clue. And basically what has happened, there's been they found a body, and there were a couple of bodies found. So now, the police in the area are thinking we have a serial killer on our hands. And, as the story goes on, you come to learn how these people could have been involved in that. Because initially I thought one family in particular was a victim. And I mean, I guess at the end of the day, they kind of were, but then you realize that somebody in the house had something to do with some of the stuff going on. So it was very intriguing. I mean, it seems like a lot of the books that I have read lately, I'm envisioning these limited series on a streaming platform, and Mill Point Road is no exception. It is like just so riveting and gripping, and it holds your attention. I mean, it's like you want to know what happens, so you don't want to put the book down. I will tell you, the chapters are very short, and I think that maybe that had something to do with being able to get all of the characters, their backstories in, so that we could kind of see how they all fit together. But it works, I'm not like complaining. I mean, it works. The book itself is roughly 329 pages, but like I said, very fast paced. And it is very scandalous in parts, very like, I have a note here. It's so funny because it's in all caps, and I say this book is going off the rails, and in parts it does. In some books, if an author had done that, I would be like, oh, they're just trying to be, they're trying to just go for shock value. That could have been left out. That didn't have anything to do with the story. But I mean, I think just with this first story, and I'm sure it's going to get even, the plots are going to just thicken even more with this being a series. I feel like it's really, like, I haven't seen anything yet. But the way that a lot of the characters were written, I think they had to be that way to show you the depths of what they were capable of. The on the surface, because the book focuses on the women in the story. Like a couple of their husbands come into play. I mean, they're all mentioned, but none of them are really like characters with a lot of dialogue or a lot of interaction. It is mainly these women. And like I said, on the surface, you're thinking, oh, they're just a bunch of, entitled, rich housewives. And, you don't think that they're smart enough or cunning enough or diabolical enough to do some of the things that were done, but they are all a whole mess, not to be underestimated. It's just so much I can't say because I don't want to give it away, but there was not a single person I feel like in the story that was innocent, like 100% innocent in some way. Everybody had their dirt or their thing that they were doing that they were either keeping from the other, ladies. Although, they were having these weekly meetings at, they would take turns at each other's house. And they were pretty open about some of their dalliances and their, things that they were doing. But they were keeping stuff from each other. So, yeah, I cannot, there were two parts with the characters, Zoe and Becca. Like, they're the two that I am hoping, in the next book or the book after, because I think it's 4 total in the series, that I can get some, like, more information about what the hell, like, were the two of them, like, what happened to one and what the hell with the other one, like, what caused the actions that, we learned about in this particular book. It's a lot going on, but in a good way. And the thing that, even though, like I said, at the end, I was like, "What? Wait a minute, what's happening? Where's this one character? Where does she go?" Because I felt like she kind of disappeared. And then that's when I learned, it was a series. But even so, everything else I felt had a satisfying enough ending that if there wasn't a series, that, I would be okay with that. But now I got to know some unanswered questions when I go back and I think about it. It's like, but why was this? Why was that? I'm looking forward to learning more about those ladies at Mill Point Road, and if they're able to get out of the messes that were created in this book, or if they're going to create even more mess. The drama. Really, really good book, Mill Point Road. If you love thrillers, suspense books where, you're thinking it's one thing and then it ends up being another thing. You thought you knew who the killer was and it ended up being somebody else. And you like those twisty turn type books. If you like books where all the characters are suspects, books where all the characters have salacious secrets, let me tell you something. You are going to devour this one. But just keep in mind, it is a series. There are 3 more books in the series. So thank you for sending this to me, Mr. Ellem, and getting me hooked. I appreciate it. If you have read Mill Point Road or any of the books in the series, and I think it's like, this one it says a Ravenwood thriller. So I guess that's maybe the overarching name for the series. If you've read any of them, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you thought about them. Thank you so much, guys, for watching today. And like I said, next week, I will be doing a 2022 wrap up with my top 5 favorite books. And I also have a huge announcement to make. So make sure you're tuning in next week. But thank you again for watching today. And if you have not subscribed, come on now. Let's get me to a good round number for the end of 2022. I'm all about the round numbers, right? We're gonna have 100 videos on the channel. I think this made my 30th book this year, so let's get the some good round numbers going. If I could get to 500 like before the end of the year, that would be an amazing Christmas present. So go ahead, subscribe right now. Do your part to make it happen. You guys, y'all have a great weekend. See y'all next week. Bye.